I needed just a single evening to cover my rent, but that evening spiraled into something sinister. Now he claims I'm his. Greetings, and thank you for returning to Ella's True Confessions. Your support means everything, and I'm grateful for every view. If you're joining us for the first time, please click that subscribe button. This tale is unlike any other. It's intense, raw, and gut-wrenching all at once. Picture this. What would you do if your landlord proposed wiping out your rent in exchange for your intimacy? I never imagined I'd agree to such a thing, yet here I am sharing my reality. Life wasn't always this chaotic. I once had stability, a calm marriage, a modest Houston apartment where the highlight was cozy movie nights with takeout. But then my job vanished. My husband, Brandon, took a short-term gig out of state with a construction firm, leaving me alone with mounting bills. I stood at the kitchen counter, clutching my phone, pulse racing. My banking app showed $62.17. That was it. Rent was $950. I'd already pleaded with Mr. Harris, my 63-year-old landlord, for extra time the month before. He granted it, but his odd grin left me unsettled. He was tall, imposing, and stern. The sort of man who commanded attention. Not unattractive, but there was a knowing edge to him, like he held secrets. A knock startled me before I could look up. 3 slow, measured raps at my door. I opened it to find Mr. Harris leaning casually against the frame, as if the place was his, which, in truth, it was. "Evening, Lisa," he said, his gaze sweeping over me. I wore a baggy old t-shirt, no bra, and crossed my arms over my chest. "Hi," I stuttered. "I know rent's overdue. I just need a bit more." He cut me off with a raised hand. "I'm done waiting," he said coldly, "but I'm not without mercy." My throat tightened. "What do you mean?" He stepped inside uninvited, shutting the door. The atmosphere shifted instantly, my body stiffening. "It means," he said, drawing nearer, "there's a way to keep your place. No payment required." My heart pounded. I stepped back. "What are you saying?" He tilted his head. "One night with me and I erase the rent." My jaw dropped. "You're kidding." His expression remained icy. "You're a lovely woman, Lisa. Alone, desperate, fragile. I can provide what you need if you give me what I want." I stood paralyzed. I wanted to yell, to shove him out. But deep down, a tiny, shameful part of me was intrigued. I despised myself for even considering it. Then he leaned close, his breath near my ear, and whispered words I'll never unhear. "You're mine now." That moment changed everything. I don't recall how I ended up in the bedroom, what was said, or how many tears fell. All I remember is his touch. His hands were coarse, forceful. His kisses ravenous. His presence overwhelming. I wasn't just yielding. I was surrendering completely. I told myself it was just one night. A transaction. But afterward, lying beside him, his breathing heavy, I realized something perilous had begun. I didn't feel remorse. I felt desire. The next morning, I woke alone. A note lay on the pillow. "Rent covered. I'll return. You know the terms." And so it began. That week, I tried to resume normalcy. I avoided my reflection, flinched at every noise, kept my phone close in case Brandon called. I thought it was done, but Thursday night I heard the door unlock. Not knock, unlock. Mr. Harris had a key, and once again I let it happen. What would you have done in my place? This was only the start, and believe me, things grew even bleaker. It was meant to be once, but he kept returning. And the worst part? A part of me wanted him to. Thanks for joining Ella's True Confessions. If you're new, hit subscribe and like. This story's getting darker, more gripping. After that first night with Mr. Harris, I couldn't rest without securing every lock, though I knew he had a key. I told myself I loathed him, that I felt violated. So why did my body stir at the thought of him? I felt filthy, ashamed, yet desired. And that longing only intensified. By week's end, he'd returned 3 more times. No words, no tenderness, just primal want. He didn't ask if I consented. He took what he thought was his. And the scariest part? I didn't resist. It was a Saturday afternoon when the dynamic shifted. I was folding clothes in the living room when the buzzer sounded. My stomach sank. I approached the door, heart racing, and opened it. But it wasn't Mr. Harris. It was Brandon. He'd returned early from his out-of-state job, surprising me for the weekend. I embraced him, heart hammering, praying he couldn't sense my guilt. He held me close, whispering, "I missed you." I nearly broke down. That night, I cooked his favorite, mac and cheese with baked chicken, pretending all was well. He shared stories about his work site, mentioning a possible permanent supervisor role. All I could think was, he doesn't know what I've done. We made love that night. Gentle, familiar, safe. But I felt nothing. No passion, no fire. My mind was on Mr. Harris. The next morning, Brandon went to buy breakfast supplies. I stood in the shower, hot water searing my skin, trying to cleanse my sins. Then I heard it, the door unlocking. My heart plummeted. I shut off the water, grabbed a towel, and stepped out, dripping. There he was, Mr. Harris, standing in my kitchen like he belonged. "What are you doing?" I hissed, clutching the towel. "My husband's here." He didn't blink. "You didn't mention he'd be back." "I didn't know," I said. He studied me, my wet skin, my shaking lips, then smirked. "I'll return when he's gone." And he left. I slumped against the door, trembling. That weekend, I couldn't meet Brandon's eyes. Every kiss, laugh, and touch felt like a lie. But the moment he left Monday morning, Mr. Harris stormed back. This time was different. He made me kneel, whispered vile things that left me feeling tainted yet hooked. When it ended, he kissed my forehead and said, "You're mine." I didn't protest. I began deceiving Brandon, claiming I was busy, exhausted, or sick. I dodged his calls when Mr. Harris was near. I started wearing lingerie I'd never touched before, waiting for my landlord. I was slipping, not into love, but lust, danger, because Mr. Harris no longer craved just my body. He wanted my essence. I thought I could manage it, stop whenever I chose. But then he revealed something that shifted everything, showing I was no longer just his plaything. I was his captive. Thank you for watching Ella's True Confessions and for your comments and likes. This chapter marks a turning point, so subscribe if you're new. You won't want to miss what's next. It was a Thursday morning when my world began to crumble. Brandon had just left for work. I stood in my robe, pouring coffee, pretending to live a normal life. But I wasn't. I was leading a double existence, and the facade was cracking. Mr. Harris hadn't appeared in nearly a week. Part of me felt relief, but another part kept glancing at the door, the clock, every sound in the hall. I was edgy, restless. Then came a knock. Just one. I opened the door expecting his usual grin, but Mr. Harris looked grim, intense. He stepped inside silently and handed me a small object, a USB drive. "What's this?" I asked, brow furrowed. He just stared. "Play it." My instincts screamed not to, but I took it, went to my laptop, and inserted it. What I saw buckled my knees. It was us, that first night, filmed from my bedroom's corner. I gasped, hand covering my mouth. "You recorded us?" He didn't waver. I always safeguard my interests. I stared, horrified. "You can't, this is illegal." He shrugged. "So is dodging rent. So is betraying your husband." My breath hitched. "You wouldn't," I whispered. He leaned closer, voice low, menacing. "Test me." From then on, it meant it wasn't just intimacy anymore. It was blackmail, control, ownership. I pleaded with him to delete it, offered money I didn't have. But he just said, "You'll obey me, or your husband learns everything." I nodded. What else could I do? And so it truly began. He texted me at all hours, demanding photos, videos, or summoning me to his upstairs apartment. Bear. I'd slip out like a shadow, heart racing, body shaking. I told myself each time was the last, but I kept returning. Not just from fear of his evidence, but from fear of how much I craved him. One afternoon, Brandon came home early. I was in the shower, body aching from Mr. Harris's morning visit. As I stepped into the bedroom, drying off, I froze. Brandon held my phone. "Who's this?" he asked. My heart stopped. I approached slowly. "It's just my landlord," I said. He frowned. "Why's he texting you? You looked perfect on your knees today." My mouth opened, but no words came. My secret was unraveling. It was meant to be my burden, my shame, but now it was exposed. The man I loved stared at me like I was a stranger. Thank you again for your amazing support at Ella's True Confessions. If you're new, please like, comment, and subscribe. This chapter is raw, painful, and real. Secrets don't stay buried forever. My truth had just detonated. Brandon stood silent, phone in hand, my betrayal in his gaze. I froze. Towel pressed to my chest, water dripping down my legs. I felt chilled, vulnerable. "I asked you something," he said, his voice sharp, taut. I swallowed. "Brandon, I can explain." He let out a harsh, unfamiliar laugh. "Explain? What's there to explain? That you've been sleeping with our landlord while I was slaving away out of town?" Tears stung my eyes. "It wasn't like that." He waved the phone. "Oh, because it seems like you loved it." I collapsed, sobbing into my hands. I confessed everything. Losing my job, my desperation, Mr. Harris's offer. How I accepted. "I didn't mean to continue." I wept. "He blackmailed me. He filmed us. I had no choice." But Brandon stood rigid, fists clenched. "You had every choice," he said, voice shaking. "You picked this over us. Over me." He left that night, taking nothing, saying nothing, just slamming the door. I sat on the floor for hours, numb, shattered, alone. Later, Mr. Harris texted, "I told you, you're mine. No turning back." I didn't respond or move. All I could think was how I'd ruined everything. But it didn't end there. A week later, Brandon returned. Not to reconcile, but with a lawyer seeking divorce. Worse, he confronted Mr. Harris outside our apartment. I'll never forget my landlord's expression, smug yet cautionary. "You may have slept with her," Brandon said, "but you don't own her." Mr. Harris smirked. "You sure?" Now I'm caught between two men. One who loved me and left, and one who claims me and won't release me. I tried to flee. I couldn't endure it anymore. After Brandon abandoned me, after the truth surfaced and he walked away without looking back, I wanted to vanish, to start anew somewhere safe. But I was mistaken. Mr. Harris held too much power. A key, videos, the ability to track me. I stayed at a friend's for a few nights, sleeping on her couch, phone off, but he appeared at her door. He didn't shout or cause a scene. He just fixed me with those dark eyes and said, "You're mine, Lisa. Don't forget." And the worst part? I didn't scream or resist. Part of me still felt bound to him as if he'd etched himself into my core. I realized I wasn't just his tenant. I was his possession. No matter how far I fled, he'd always have a way to drag me back. I longed for freedom, but each time I tried, he reminded me it wasn't mine to claim. I swung open the door, and there he stood, bare, wet, and flawless. I couldn't resist. Thanks for tuning in to Ella's Tales of Betrayal. Your support means the world. If you're just joining us, smash that subscribe button and enable notifications. We release gripping stories every day that'll keep you hooked. Let me pose a question. If you stumbled upon someone off limits, someone you shouldn't desire but do, what would you do? That's where my tale starts. I'm Lisa. I'm 39, self-assured, accomplished, and wed to a man I once thought was my soulmate. We reside in a spacious, modern home in New Jersey's suburbs. My husband Brian is older, dependable, driven, and runs our family company as CEO. Together, we created a dynasty. But things get messy here. Brian has a son, Josh, from an earlier marriage. 20, tall, fit, with sparkling eyes and a grin that could soften stone. He came to live with us during his summer vacation. Initially, I acted like any typical stepmother would. Polite, caring, nothing else. But one morning flipped everything upside down. It was early, around 6:30 a.m. I'd just returned from my jog and headed upstairs to grab a towel for a shower. Without knocking, I pushed open the bathroom door. Steam enveloped me, then his presence overwhelmed me. Josh stood there, drenched, water streaming down his sculpted back, his skin rosy from the warmth. He spun around, startled, hastily covering himself. "I'm so sorry," I stammered, yet I didn't retreat. I still don't know why I lingered. Perhaps it was how the water droplets hugged his skin. Maybe it was the way his eyes met mine, torn between surprise and intrigue. Or perhaps it was a longing deep within me, a yearning I hadn't felt in ages. "Lisa," he murmured, eyes wide. "I didn't realize you were here," I whispered back. I could have left. I should have. But instead, I inched closer. He didn't push me away. My fingers grazed his arm, warm and solid. He trembled. So did I. A heavy, thrilling silence hung between us. Then it happened. Our lips touched. Tentative at first, then desperate. It was magnetic, taboo, intoxicating. In that misty bathroom, time vanished, boundaries faded, and I surrendered to the moment. When it ended, Josh pulled back, gasping, shaken. "We can't do this again," he breathed. I nodded, but my pulse raced for all the wrong reasons. Later, I stood before my mirror, fingers tracing my lips where his had been. Guilt hadn't sunk in yet. All I felt was an untamed thrill I couldn't name. I tried to bury myself in work meetings, but my thoughts kept drifting to him. His scent, his skin, his voice. I knew it was wrong, yet I craved him again. That morning was meant to be a fluke, but soon I was the one pursuing him relentlessly. He said no. He pleaded for me to stop, but I was in too deep. Have you ever desired something so fiercely, even knowing it was wrong? That's where I was, torn between remorse and obsession. After that bathroom encounter, everything shifted. Josh avoided me, barely spoke, kept his distance. At breakfast, he'd sit far away. If I entered a room, he'd leave, but I couldn't stop staring. I couldn't erase what we'd done. Worse, I didn't want to. One afternoon, I found him alone in the garden, tending to the flowers his father tasked him with. The summer sun glowed on his skin, making him look so innocent, untainted. My heart pounded just seeing him. I approached, trying to sound relaxed. "Hey," I said gently. "Need a hand with those?" He didn't meet my gaze. "I'm good," he replied coldly. I stood there unsure, then blurted, "We need to discuss what happened." He stiffened, jaw tight. I already said it was a mistake, but it didn't feel like one. I stepped closer, whispering. It felt right. He turned, pain in his eyes. "Lisa, you're my stepmom. This is wrong. Dad trusts you." His words stung because they were true. But I was already falling, craving that illicit spark again. That night, I tapped on his door. He opened it slightly. "What do you want?" he whispered. "I just miss our talks," I said. His eyes searched mine, wavering, wanting. "I can't," he said. "I don't want to betray Dad." Then he closed the door. I tried to distract myself. Work, workouts, long drives. But in every still moment, his face haunted me. The way he kissed me, the sound of his voice in the shower, the heat of his skin against mine. I had it all. Wealth, influence, success. But suddenly, nothing else mattered. I just wanted him. A week later, another moment. Late one evening, I spotted him in the kitchen, shirtless, sweaty from a run. I couldn't resist teasing. "Looking fit?" I said with a smile. He tried to brush me off, but I saw it, that spark in his eyes. The tension flared again. I stepped closer, deliberate, slow. I can't stop thinking about you, I murmured. Lisa, don't, he said, voice low. This is risky. I know, I replied, resting my hand on his chest. But you make me feel alive. And just like before, he gave in. The next morning, he was gone. No note, no word, just silence. Hours later, I overheard him speaking to his father downstairs. My heart froze. I crept to the stairs and caught words that buckled my knees. Dad, I have to tell you about Lisa. He'd warned me. He'd said no, but I didn't listen. Now he was spilling everything to my husband. Should he have stayed silent? Or was he right to confess? Share what you'd do in the comments. I never thought he'd tell his father, but he did. And just like that, my world collapsed. When I heard Josh say, Dad, I have to tell you about Lisa, my chest tightened. I fled to my bedroom, pulse racing. Did he really confess? Or was he bluffing? I couldn't stay still. My hands were clammy. I paced like a caged animal awaiting judgment. Minutes dragged, then footsteps. My husband, Mark, entered, pale, drained. Is it true? He asked quietly. I couldn't speak. He stepped closer. Lisa, tell me he's lying. I tried to respond, but the truth choked me. I recalled the early days of our marriage. Mark and I weren't always so distant. He was kind, faithful, steady. He gave me everything: wealth, a stunning home, a role on the company board. But over time, the spark dimmed. He got consumed by work. I grew lonely. And Josh, he was young, alluring, dangerous in the way temptation often is. Mark sat on the bed, trembling. I trusted you, he said, barely composed. You were supposed to guide him, not this. Tears streamed down my face. I didn't mean for this, I whispered. It just happened. Twice, he snapped. Silence swallowed the room. Then he stood. I want a divorce. We co-owned the company, but I held the majority stake. After the divorce, everything shifted. I became the highest-paid executive in our firm, but the boardroom whispers never ceased. They didn't speak it, but their eyes screamed it. That was the penalty I couldn't dodge. I had power, prestige. But peace? Gone. At night, I'd lie awake, tormented by what I'd lost. Mark, Josh, respect. People envied my life from afar. But inside, I was crumbling. One rainy evening, weeks post-divorce, my phone buzzed. An unsaved number, but I knew. Josh. I hesitated, then answered. His voice was steady. Can we talk? He'd destroyed everything, yet my heart raced at his name. I stared at the screen. His name glowing like a specter from my past. I should have ignored it. But my fingers moved on their own. Hello, I said, voice unsteady. He sounded mature, somber. I need to meet in person. We agreed on a quiet diner outside town. I arrived early, sat by the window. Rain pattered on the glass, mirroring the chaos within me. Then he walked in. Same piercing eyes, same easy stride that once weakened me. But something had changed. He wasn't the boy from the bathroom anymore. He carried guilt, like me. I didn't mean to wreck your life, he said. I gave a soft scoff. But you did. I was scared, he added, ashamed. I didn't know how to handle it. I looked away, heart pounding. So why now? He paused. Because I can't stop thinking about you. His words struck deep. How could I still feel for the boy who broke everything? But his eyes held something familiar. Yearning, regret, desire. He reached out, fingers grazing mine lightly. I miss you, he said. I wanted to pull back. I should have. But I didn't. My breath hitched. My skin prickled. Memories of that steamy, forbidden bathroom moment surged back. "We can't do this again," I whispered. "I know," he said, eyes locked on mine, "but I had to see you." That night I lay awake. His words echoed endlessly, his voice, his gaze, that soft touch. I despised myself for feeling something, but my heart didn't care. I had wealth, status, everything money could buy, but not what I truly needed. 2 nights later, a late knock startled me. I opened the door. Josh stood there, drenched, eyes alight with something unnameable. "I shouldn't be here," he said. Yet he was. I had it all: money, influence, success. But peace? That vanished the night I let him in again. I should have shut the door, but I didn't. Josh stood soaked, looking more like a lost soul than a man. He said nothing. He didn't need to. I stepped aside, letting the past re-enter. We sat across from each other in my penthouse, the silence thick, almost suffocating. "I still dream about that day," he said finally. I shut my eyes. So did I. "I'm not proud of it," I whispered. "But you wanted it as much as I did," he replied, voice soft, almost shaking. "I lost my husband because of you." "No," he corrected gently. "You lost him because we crossed a line and I told the truth." I nodded, pain twisting inside. But it wasn't just pain. Something still burned, still lived. "I thought I hated you," I admitted, "but I missed you more." The room warmed, or maybe it was us, sitting too close, breathing too heavily. I touched his cheek. Just once. His lips met mine. Gently at first, like a question, then like a tempest. We didn't speak. Words were useless now. The past rushed back. The bathroom, the allure, the rush. But this time it wasn't a slip. It was a choice. Morning came and reality struck. Sunlight streamed through the curtains. I rolled over. The bed was empty. A note lay on the pillow. "You'll always have my heart, but we can't keep ruining each other. Josh." 8 months later, I owned 60% of the company my ex-husband and I built. He sold his shares and moved far away. Josh. I haven't seen him since that rainy night. I have it all: wealth, authority, status. But at night, my heart murmurs his name. Did I lose everything? Or just the one thing that made me feel truly alive? I'm the highest paid executive in the city. But peace? That fled the night I followed desire into that bathroom. What would you have done? Would you have confessed or buried the secret forever? Share your thoughts in the comments. If this tale stirred you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Ella's Tales of Betrayal. More jaw-dropping stories drop daily.